Welcome to the Sewing Machine Repair Guy. This is a channel where I give advice on how to save money by avoiding the sewing machine mechanic. Also, learn with me on repairs of various machines. And I will conduct reviews on new machines from a mechanic point of view. Come learn with me. Today we're going to learn how to fix two problems with the thread under the fabric. So this is when you have a problem underneath the fabric with the thread getting bunched up, or rat's nest or bird's nest, whatever you want to call it, or just getting stuck in there where you can't even physically get that fabric out. We're going to find out how to fix that today. But first, some trivia. What was God's first recorded work following creation? So we'll have the answer at the end of the video, so I hope you stick around with me. Let's get started. All right, have you ever been sewing and then you suddenly see that something is amiss? Let's see how this looks. All right, that doesn't sound good, does it? Here's what we've got. Got a ton of loops. It was jumping all over the place. What in the world is going on with this machine? I mean, look at that. It just skipped all kinds of stitches. All right, let's figure this out. What do you want to check when you get a stitch that looks like this? Let's look at our machine. So this is making a... So when you come down to your machine after this, you gotta look and see what you have left over. So we have bits of thread. I want to make sure that there's no bits of thread down here. Underneath. So there is some more thread coming through. You got a piece right there, so that jerking is happening when your thread is tearing, because so many loops of thread are going down underneath there. All right, once you get all this extra thread that you have found cleared out, we need to figure out what's going on. So when we examine our fabric, you notice I use two different colors of thread. My bobbin is white, and my thread up here on top is black. So where's the problem? The problem is underneath my fabric, but it's the black thread. So it's the top thread. There's a lot of people that when they see the problem underneath the fabric, they think that their upper thread is fine because look at that, it looks great. Underneath it looks terrible. But the problem is that upper thread, because you see it's the black thread that's very loose. Those loops mean that it's not being pulled back up like it should be. So how do I figure this out? Well, let's look and see if we can find the problem on the machine. So if we follow our thread, we're going to look at this whole thread path where the thread goes, okay? And we want to look at the tension. So we follow our thread through here. It's supposed to go around there and down through, up in here is your tension assembly. It's kind of hard to see, but you want to find that thread. It goes down around there and up through here. Your machine may be a little slightly different, but even if it's a vintage machine, it's going to have the same arm that pulls the thread up. And then if you look on this arm, you'll notice that there is no thread in the arm. Now even with this little stay thing here, and see if we can see it better on this side, that's to hold the thread in place. It's got an extra little clip in there. My thread has jumped out, and this does happen on machines from time to time. Or you think you threaded it, but you didn't really get it threaded. But in this case, it has jumped out, because I know I threaded that thing right, and it doesn't look right. So we're going to pull the thread. Best thing to do, a lot of people recommend, is you're going to cut your thread here and you're going to pull it down here so that any of those pieces of thread or anything don't get sucked back up into the machine. Lint, all kinds of stuff can get sucked back in if you pull your thread out the other way. So now we're going to rethread our machine. Okay, so threading your machine may be different. However, a lot of machines operate the same way in principle. So here we have our same old fabric. Now, one thing, if you have all of these frays on your fabric, you want to get rid of them. So I've had some customers that went through, we fixed the machine, they sent the same fabric through, and these threads get stuck because they're just hanging around and they get caught up and then they make your machine break again. You don't want that, so we're going to clear these out. Now I have a fresh piece of fabric ready to go in. Let's see what we get. And then we get a beautiful stitch, top and bottom. All right, let's go through here. We're going to sew another strip. See what we've got this time. Whoa. Oh, my machine does not like me now. I just did something. Okay. Oh dear. Oh no. Oh dear. What are we gonna do now? It's stuck. Okay. Have you ever seen this and had your fabric get stuck to the machine like that? Boy, did that make a noise. Sometimes your needle will even break when this happens. That does not look good, and I got to get this out of here. So what should I do to get this out of here? First off, I want an even playing field. I want to be able to reach my fabric. So for this one, it ain't moving. So we are, okay, I got to move a little bit. All right. Let's see. What do we have underneath there? All right, can you see that? We have a lot of thread under there. All right, like I said, we're gonna level the playing field. We're gonna cut this thread here and pull that needle out. I'm gonna remove my presser foot. So that I can see what I've got, which is a big ball of nastiness. How's the bobbin? Cut that, get that out of there. Now I pulled the bobbin out, I pulled the top thread out, and look at that. Oh, what a mess. Okay, have I hurt something in my machine? That's what people ask. Have I hurt it? Well, I don't know. Let's take a look. Okay, so it's coming out now. I've got everything out of there. Look at that mess. Why did my machine do that? What a mess. And again, it's all the black. It's all the black. The white thread was fine. So the white was my bobbin. The problem's underneath the machine, yet it's the top thread. It's the black thread. All right, let's look down here. You want to look and see if you see any thread that has survived. You want to make sure that your bobbin case right here is not turned around backwards or anything. This is actually correctly positioned. Some of them you can see better than others. I'm going to go ahead and open this up so I can show you what you need to look at on your machine. This machine is harder to see than most other machines I've worked on. So I'm going to pull the needle plate so that you can see what I'm talking about with making sure that that bobbin case is still correctly installed. When you have a problem like this, that bobbin case sometimes likes to turn around, and that's not good. So there's a couple reasons it's not good, and I'll show you. Looking at this bobbin case, you can see it's properly installed. It is not turned on me. And what you're looking for, some of them have an arrow, but this little tab right here, that little point, let's see if I can point at it with a pencil, right here. See where you got a little bit of space in there? And that's good. This little spring right here is looking good because that spring, whenever you're operating your machine, and the screwdriver, that spring goes in and out every time you do a stitch as this thing rotates a little bit. Okay, so that's what you want to look at. You want to see how that is, and then this doesn't rotate around. Now, when this rotates around in your machine, that's a bad thing. If this ever turns around in your machine, so first of all, that means that the tab that was holding it in place isn't working very well. But also, when this plastic goes under where your needle is coming down, and your needle will put a hole. It'll put multiple holes in there. Boom, boom, boom. And you'll see holes in there in that bobbin case. When you get a hole in that bobbin case, now you have frayed edges of plastic. And every time your machine does a stitch, your upper thread goes around this whole bobbin case. It goes around the outside of it. And it's got to be smooth. It's got to be smooth to let that happen. If you get a needle strike and you have plastic edges that are sharp, that thread is not going to go around that bobbin case. It's going to stick right there. And that'll cause a problem similar to what we just showed if that's happening. So you take a look at your bobbin case and you look for any edges where a needle has gone through and made a hole. Now, you can fix that. It is possible to fix that. A lot of this plastic is kind of malleable, and if you get a, I don't have a needle strike on this one, but if you have a hole on it, you can use your fingernail and push over the edges to kind of smooth it out. The other thing is using a fingernail file, using some sandpaper, using something to smooth it out. And then, I do have a needle strike on here. Look, it went all the way through. So that is an example of what you don't want. If you do get one of those, you can use your fingernail, like I said. Just kind of push it over till it's smooth. Because that needle is going to go around this thing. This spot right here is not really that bad of a spot to have one. It's usually towards the edges, or especially on this little hook right here. But you can push that plastic around with your fingernail or some other sort of, you know, pair of pliers, screwdriver. And like I said, you could use sandpaper to sand it down, emery board. anything like that. So that actually feels really smooth now. I don't feel anything as I rub my fingernail across. So there we go. We did get a needle strike. We did have a problem. I don't see any thread left in there. So let's put it back together and get started sewing again. I've been working on this mask for a while and now my machine's not working. I gotta get it working again so I can make my masks. The other place you want to, be concerned about needle strikes are your plate. This plate has a couple, they're not that bad. If you start ripping thread, that's your problem. Now since we had a needle strike, I want to replace this needle. I don't trust my needle after I've had a needle strike on something. It could look as straight as can be, but it's going in the trash because it's cheap. And it will save me so much aggravation later on by just replacing the darn needle. All right, we found a needle strike. Are we done yet? No, we're not done. We actually didn't find the cause. So let's keep looking. So we fixed all that. We replaced our needle. Now we're following our thread up. And we're looking for a problem with our thread. And wait a minute. Do you know I've gone to a customer's house after I had fixed a sewing machine, and this is what I saw when they had threaded their machine and said they continued to have problems with it? That is wrong right there. We are skipping this step right here. So this step is your tension assembly. We have no tension on this thread at all. So let's rethread this correctly and see how it sews. Let's see what we get. So what did we do? We had a big rat's nest in the bottom, or bird's nest, whatever you want to call it. We pulled that out. We pulled this apart. We checked our bobbin case. Bobbin case had turned a little bit, had a needle strike on it. We smoothed that needle strike out, put the bobbin case back, made sure it was in there correctly, it had the proper movement. We put that back together. We found that we had the thread going through the wrong path, so we didn't thread the machine properly. So we got it threaded properly, and now we're going to give this a try and see how we do. Look at that beautiful stitch. Our machine is working again. What did we learn today? Well, today we learned how to fix two different problems with the thread under the fabric. And we found out that that gets adjusted from the top side of the fabric because it's the upper thread that's going through the fabric and causing problems underneath the fabric. In this case, we had some tension issues. We had very low tension, which caused that fabric to loop underneath. And it caused some big problems. So we saw one which wasn't too bad of a problem, forming loops. And then we saw another which formed a pretty big problem. That's your worst case scenario with a possible needle breaking. We had needle strikes on our bobbin case, and we had to fix that. And then we had to replace our needle, and then we were able to rethread the machine, and it sewed just like new again. So hopefully we learned something today. And now the answer to our trivia question. So our question was, what was God's first recorded work following creation? Well, the answer is, according to Genesis 3:21, Genesis chapter 3 verse 21, and the Lord God made for Adam and his wife garments of skins and clothed them. That's right, God sewed some clothes. God made clothes for Adam and Eve for his first work following creation. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe. Also, I'd love to hear from you. If you have any ideas for future videos, please leave a comment below and let me know. I hope you have a great day.